unlike California here, where it's not accidental, we're in occidental. Today, we're gonna ride one of the most renowned pieces of dirt here in Sonoma County, Old Caz, which is also known from its history in the Grasshopper series. Now, while we have a great route in mind, there's so many fantastic roads around the Russian River and the coast. Who knows where we'll end up? Hopefully back here, which would be no accident. Let's roll. The Grasshopper series is on the Mount Rushmore of California gravel, led by Miguel Crawford for over 20 years, with a number of events through Northern California, including Old Caz, which has introduced many and grown people's passion for the sport. I adore the sereneness of Sonoma County, but every time the Russian River Brewing Company is a required stop to take in one of the top beers in the world, and maybe even two of them, if your timing is right. This route was an abbreviated version of the Grasshopper, covering 43 miles with a sturdy 4,000 feet of gain. Our starting spot of Occidental dates back as a stop for the logging-centric North Pacific Coast Railroad in 1876, which ran from Casadero all the way to Sausalito, explaining why the main part of town is so set back. If you have complaints about the start of the ride, then it's gonna be a long day, because you get to streak down the Bohemian highway for the first 7 miles. You unmistakably pass Camp Meeker as you spot the giant redwoods, which used to be more robust before the logging age. The road takes a flatter profile on the second half, as you'll soon exit from the trees as small businesses emerge, approaching the Russian River. Crossing the bridge, you enter the heart of Monte Rio, which carries a free spirit charm reflective of the region. We headed west down Highway 116 for only a mile until we turned off for a dirt shortcut. You might call this a case of purposeful misdirection, as taking the option to the right resulted in dead-end magic. Correcting ourselves onto Duncan Road put us on a nearly 3-mile bypass of the highway with a bell curve elevation profile. The climb wasn't overly taxing, being enveloped by shade most of the ascent, while the downhill is equally tame, making you feel like it's always autumn down here, with a couple of surprises built in. The mailboxes signaled the end of Duncan as we jumped onto Highway 116 for only a block to start up Old Casadero, although the smarter play is to follow the Grasshopper route up Cherry, but hey, we're big fans of nomenclature. The bottom mile and a half is pretty flat, with eclectic homes lined with an encroaching redwoods, passing the previously mentioned connection. Switching back past Chimney Rock Road the climb gets real, averaging around 5% for 3 miles. But the first half is where you'll be putting in work, where the grade is nearly double. Luckily, this portion is still paved, but the odds of finding a helpful homeowner decreases along this part as you'll ponder the juxtaposition of it being shaded versus your views being shut in from the foliage. After a mile and a half, Old Caz is essentially strong ups and downs where you do get some off-roading sections baked in. But the real allure doesn't really hit you until you peak and make your way around the first gate, transitioning the ride in more ways than one. It's not just the off-roading that's welcome, but your most sustained stretch of openness, which gives you a peek into the pastoral beauty of these hills. And yes, the downhill is fun too, even though you may touch the brakes to prolong the scenery, at least until you find your way under the tree canopy. Once underneath, it's roughly a mile, where you can focus enjoying the descent as you wind around in all directions. The end of this downhill is clear, coming up on Austin Creek, where the question isn't if you have to cross, but how much water will be in the way depending on the time of year. As you dry up, there can be a bit of confusion on the direction to continue. Because I didn't load the map, we're having a little bit of a talking session here of which way to go. I think I agree with Bill. We have to go this way, because it looks like somebody lives here who could be helpful, but it could also be kind of strange. So, oh God, aim for me first. While this was a mistake, I think we can be forgiven for not picking the down tree option at the time. It's easy to know you're headed the right way because you have a mile climb nearing 9% that's distinctive from other choices. Other than staying to your right, you get another flowing downhill, exiting you where the options to the right include the legendary King Ridge and Fort Ross roads. The town of Casadero is just off in the opposite direction, which what it lacks in size, it makes up for in old-time charm. It's roughly a 10-kilometer descent to make it down to the Russian River, starting down Casadero Highway. We flip to the opposite side of Austin Creek, continuing to parallel the waterway, where other cyclists shared our choice for a quieter ride among the redwoods. You may not resist the temptation to take pictures, but we soon return to Highway 116 for a third and final time for what looked like downhill, but only losing 10 feet of elevation over the next 5 miles. While you can't help acknowledging the beauty within the quaintness, you do feel confronted by the headwinds and changing weather as you approach Highway 1. Turning south, we bypassed our dirt turnoff for an opportunity to look down this magical coast. But it's remarkable how conditions can differ over such a short distance. Wait till I make another video about this, because that's a view worth riding by. But today, you can see everything has changed. I'm yelling over the wind, and we're not going to battle the elements anymore. Back to Willow Creek. It was a chance worth taking, but we returned back down the highway around the Russian house, where our adventure on Willow Creek would begin. We couldn't see the river as we paralleled it, but turning inwards towards the creek, the road began taking on the gravel we were looking for. It was a relatively flat first 3.5 miles from the highway, helping make the choppy sections more palatable. But the flow goes by fast, trying to stay away from the coastal clouds, finding yourself on barn patrol for part of the way. Entering the closed road portion is a seasonal opportunity as the road takes on more of a dirt profile, crossing over. After making the right choice to hang left, Willow Creek's main climb began as the road started a series of switchbacks deep into the woods. This 3.5-mile climb, you can keep at tempo as it averages 5%, where you'll likely not have to reapply sunscreen. It's apparent up is the proper direction, as there are a number of downed trees that would be problematic descending at higher speeds. While it was a luscious environment, I was eager to get some outwardly views, which finally came as a reward for patience as you neared the upper limits. The engineered gate signals the end of the dirt climb, but you'll remain deep inside the small ring for another half mile, transitioning into some gentler cycling through what you could call residential, if anything else. After 1.5 miles, all that's left is a turn onto legendary Coleman Valley Road, which within minutes drops you back into the heart of Occidental with a quicker than expected end to a day of great riding. So, having previously only ridden road here, the dirt was everything I'd hoped for. Was there going to be changing weather conditions? Of course, but the dirt was in excellent condition, and in some cases, way better than the roads. So, I know I'll be back here. So will this guy.
I'll be back.
Anyways, if you want to find out more routes like these, check out our gravel guides. And please support us on Patreon or just subscribe so we can bring you more. Stay dirt.